14 December, Mighty Intellectuals Day in Bangladesh. In 1971, Bangladesh witnessed a brutal act of violence, the killing of intellectuals, including doctors, engineers, teachers, writers, and thinkers. And the aim was very simple: to cripple a newborn nation by killing its intellectual backbone. Now, this murder had uniform, dates, and mass graves. 5 decades later, today, some of us, including me, asking a very uncomfortable question. Is this murder of intellectual came back? Or what is happening in Bangladesh today? Is it a coincidence or a continuation of 1971? Dear viewers, good afternoon. Today I welcome you to our show, From Thought to Fear, the Systematic Silencing of Bangladesh Intellect. Join us for a deep, uncomfortable, and necessary discussion, and we welcome any comments or questions. I am very honored to introduce you to our panel today. We have Dr. Raihan Jamil from Center for Bangladesh Genocide Research. We have Saifur Rahman, who is an IT expert and blogger and also the director of GINF, and Anwar Sadat Jihan, aerospace engineer and columnist. Jihan, I'm going to you first. Would you mind giving us a tour of what happened in Bangladesh in 1971 and what is happening now? Jihan, to you.
Thank you, Ms. Meher, for connecting today. Today is 14th December. Bangladesh observes this day as Martyred Intellectuals Day. On this day, we pay our deep respect to all the martyred intellectuals who were brutally taken from us in December 1971. On this day, we remember not only how they were killed, but why they were killed. In the final days of the Liberation War, knowing that defeat was imminent, the Pakistani military and their local collaborators, the Al-Badr and the Al-Shams, targeted Bangladesh's intellectuals. From professors to journalists, from doctors to lawyers, intellectuals belonging to all sorts of professions were targeted. As you can see from this table, the number of intellectuals who were targeted falls in the thousands. And it was really hard to document all these numbers, so it may very well be even more than that. These Pakistani hyenas and their local collaborators, they believed that by eliminating the brain of the nation, the dream of an independent Bangladesh could be crippled at birth. From Johir Raihan to Shohidullah Kaisar, from Munir Chaudhuri to Anwar Pasha, professors were dragged from their homes, doctors were abducted from hospitals, journalists silenced forever. Many were tortured and murdered in cold blood, and their bodies dumped in mass graves at places like Rarbajar and Mirpur. Now, these intellectuals were not holding guns, they were holding ideas. They represented conscience, knowledge, and the future of a free nation, and they were taken brutally from us. We pay our deep respect. As we all know, a society is only as strong as its intellectual base. If you want to cripple a society, you target its intellectual base and you silence them by any means possible. Because when a society cannot think freely, it cannot progress effectively. After the unconstitutional Yunus regime took over Bangladesh, a deliberate attempt by Yunus and his goons to silence the intellectuals of Bangladesh has been observed. As you will see in the following slides, from teachers in schools to doctors with the highest expertise, from professors to journalists, all are being targeted in a systematic manner with a simple goal, with a goal of silencing them. Because if they are silent, the so-called Nobel laureate, Mr. Yunus, can peacefully continue his mission to destroy the Bangladesh that was earned by the bloods of millions. After the transition of government in Bangladesh, what we have seen in academia is chilling, is alarming. Teachers across the country were forced to resign or forced to resign or faced with mob violence. And if they cannot be silenced with mob violence, then the Yunus regime is abusing the judiciary and slapping fake murder charges against them. Scholars such as Shahriar Kabir, Professor Karjan, and many like them have faced Yunus's crackdown. And this trend has alarmed the international bodies such as UN and international or human rights organizations such as the Human Rights Watch. They have expressed their repeated concerns regarding these atrocities. Street level mob violence is not enough in some cases. As you see here, public officials and the illegal occupying force are directly complicit in the crackdown on Bangladesh's intellectuals. In this Facebook post, the press secretary of Yunus is openly and deliberately targeting veteran journalist Said Bodrul Hassan. Individuals like Said Bodrul Hassan are considered to be the brain of our nation, and they are being targeted. Many prominent journalists, such as Mr. Panna and many others, were arrested on completely fake, fabricated murder charges. And the goal of the perpetrators are very clear. The goal is to silence them, either by force or by abusing the law. We are a nation where teachers are revered by us. We place them at a level of respect equal, if not higher, than our parents. However, what we have seen after Yunus has taken over is alarming. In recent days at Dhaka University, professors were openly harassed by a so-called Jaksu leader for no reason. There is no respect for the teachers. This is not Bangladesh. This is not Bangladesh at all. Anyone, anyone who has any ties to 1971, any sympathy for our martyrs, or any contribution to our liberation war is being targeted. For example, look at the case of Dr. Samantha Lal, a very renowned burn specialist who cannot practice his profession now simply because he has some sort of ties to Bangladesh Awami League. Now, Ms. Meher and our audience, all these incidents are not isolated incidents. Rather, they are part of a systematic persecution, the kind of systematic persecution that we have observed, that we saw in our history in 1971. In 1971, we failed. In 1971, we failed to protect their lives. But it is 2025. In 2025, we must give our all. We must give our all to ensure their safety. With that, back to you, Ms. Meher.
Thank you, Jihan. I always admire your work, and if I haven't told you already, let me say it in public.
Thank you so much.
What we saw, the viewers, it is not only violent, it is the chilling truth of Bangladesh, what is happening to our society, what the state doing to our intellect. Now, Saifur Rahman, if I come to you, my question is to you is when we say the systematic silence of intellectuals, what are we actually talking about? Are we talking about a metaphor or is there an immeasurable reality in it? If you just give me your insight on it, please. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Meher. Firstly, thank you for inviting me today. And I pay deepest respect to all our martyrs of 1971. When you say the systematic silence of Bangladesh intellect, it is unique. It is unique because it serves as both a historical literalism and a modern measurable reality. It refers to a specific repeated pattern in Bangladesh's history where the machinery of the state or extremist fractions targets the thinking class, academics, writers, journalists, students, to cripple the nation's ability to dissent or progress. If I go back to the historical reality, what we see on December 14, 1971, just 2 days before liberation or before the final victory, the Pakistani army and local collaborators, Al Badr, Al Shams, executed a scorched earth policy of human capital. What they have done, they systematically abducted and murdered over thousands university professors, doctors, journalists, and writers. What was the explicit goal? The explicit goal was to leave the new nation of Bangladesh brainless, independent, but incapable of government governing itself effectively or competing on the global stage. This actually created an initial vacuum. The first generation of Bangladesh's leadership and thought and thought leaders was physically wiped out. The people or the person who would guide the newly born nation, the new government, they were just wiped out. So it has created a generational gap in mentorship and policy making that the country arguably still suffers from. So if I come to present, in recent days in Bangladesh, what we see, the silence has shifted from physical elimination to structural incapacitation. This is measurable through three specific avenues. Journalists are sacked from their jobs, arrested, and we have witnessed some more dangerous cases such as murders. School teachers are forcefully being terminated. University teachers are being harassed in their institution, in public. Students supporting the former government are threatened and had to discontinue their studies. Certificates are being cancelled. So, when we speak of the systematic silence of Bangladesh's intellect, we are talking about a measurable reality of attrition. It began with the bullet in 1971 and continues today with the jail cell and so many. It is the process of making it a dangerous, difficult, or fertile to be a thinkers in Bangladesh. Back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Rahman, as usual. Um, Dr. Raihan Jamil, my question to you is Saifur Rahman gave us some information, some insight on what is happening in today's date. And he made a link between today's event and 1971, which I'll go back soon with another question. But my question to you is, do you believe the suppressions that our intellectuals are receiving now, is it a spontaneous thing or is it a deliberate act of something? Is it systematic? If you just explain us a bit more, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Meher, and all the participants and viewers for having me in the show. First and foremost, I'd like to pay tribute to the martyred intellectuals of 1971. To this day, it remains one of the most heinous acts in human history, where a losing army tried to kill as many intellectuals as possible so that they could destabilize the future of a newborn country. Personally, it's also a very special day for me as I have lost one of the most intellectual person in my life. My father passed away today, 25 years ago. So it brings back lots of memories and emotions. Now, coming back to the question that you asked, is the suppression spontaneous or systematic? Right? Make no mistake, this suppression is not spontaneous, it is very systematic. Spontaneous silence happens when people are confused or momentarily afraid. Systematic silence happens when fear becomes predictable, repeatable, and institutionalized. This is exactly what is happening in Bangladesh. In Bangladesh, we have seen this before in 1971. The targeting of intellectuals was not random. Teachers, journalists, doctors, and writers were identified deliberately, because ideas were seen as threats. Ideas were seen as threats. The objective was simple. If you destroy these thinkers, you cripple the nation's future. Today, the method is different, but the logic is familiar. There are no public execution lists, just like they did in 1971. There is no such list. Instead, there are informal warnings, social intimidations, legal harassments, ideological labeling, and career consequences. The message is subtle but clear. Certain questions should not be asked, certain histories should not be discussed, and certain critics should not be voiced. So we can, the next logical question that comes up from this would be, then who are targeted first? It's always the same groups: university teachers who shape young minds, journalists who document inconvenient truths, writers and artists and activists who question dominant narratives, students who organize, protest, or think out loudly. They are always targeted. And
Uh,
these patterns,
Dr. Rahan Jamil, if I can just ask another question or add something to it. You are talking about some targeted group. I have seen another, a very huge big target. They are targeting the school educators, aren't they? So looks like they are starting from very beginning. They're targeting some young minds and who can shape those young minds, and they're going beyond that as well. So just to add on to it, because you mentioned university teachers, I believe the school teachers should be mentioned here as well.
definitely, all teachers, broadly all teachers. You are definitely correct. Yeah. So this pattern tells us that this is not chaos. This is by design. When fear spreads unevenly, it is accidental, like I was telling you before. But when fear spreads selectively, it is strategic. Just as in 1971, the goal is not only silence, the goal is self censorship. A society that disciplines itself without needing constant force. That is the goal. That is how intellectual suppression succeeds. not when people are killed, but when thinking itself becomes dangerous. Back to you.
Thank you, Dr. Jamil. Very important, some of the very important points you have mentioned. Mr. Rahman, I'm coming to you. Now, I am going to mention the date, a very important date, very uncomfortable date, a date that changed many course of our history, at least they're trying, and looks like the date is going to change many things in our future. I'm sure you can guess, the viewers can guess the date, 5th of August 2024. So my question to you is, do you think is there any link between 1971, what happened to the intellectuals to 1970 in 1971, and what is happening to the intellectuals in today's date? Because to me, looks like some of the perpetrator, they look either very same or very similar. The target group looks to me very same or similar, and the result they're expecting, the aim they were aiming in 1971, looks very same and similar. So, what is your view on it? Is it unmasking something that was failed before, or what is happening? Tell us a bit more.
Thank you again. Basically, I would like to mention one very today's incident that will help you to understand what is happening, or whether there is a link between 1971 and the current situation in Bangladesh. A very prominent senior journalist named his name is Anis Alamgir. He has been taken to custody of detective branch of police in Bangladesh today. What we have seen, he is very well-known journalist for covering Afghan war from the ground, Iraq war from the ground in the for in Bangladesh media, and why he is being targeted. He
Isn't
was
he, sorry, Mr. Rahman, wasn't he very a big critic of Army League as well?
And
of course.
wasn't he being targeted like specifically by the press secretary of Yunus?
Yes, not only that, he has been targeted by all the people who are who are just against the independence war, who were against 1971. So you can see here I want to tell you what I think and what is actually the reason behind. He was never affiliated with Bangladesh Awami League, but the only reason he had been targeted, or he is being targeted, is he talks about 1971. He speaks, he criticizes the current government state enabled things that is undermining our history. So he was raising voice against that, even though we heard after this new government has been formed, Dr. Yunus openly asked in the media to criticize their government, but when someone is criticizing them, they are being targeted by state forces. So either the mob is being created or the state forces trying to silence them. So if I go back to your question, what happened on August 5, 2024? Bangladesh, the date is marked as a rupture in Bangladesh's political order with the fall of a long-standing democratic government after an orchestrated mass uprising. So what we have seen later on, there are lots of evidence in the media and in social platform, in news. Even there are some international media who has covered those incident. People are kind of saying, or what their involvement was. It was uh, the Jamaat leader, the top leaders of Jamaat Islami has kind of confessed already how they were feeling, how they were managing, how they were supporting, or how they were involved behind this orchestrated uprising. So power shifted to an interim arrangement, right, just after 5th of August. So what their promise was? Their promises were of arranging an elections and do some reform. In that sense, it did mark a beginning, but beginning of what? We have seen that radicalists took over everywhere. They were facilitated by the state, and mob violence erupted everywhere in the country. Journalists, writers, teachers were beaten and harassed in public, forcefully resigned. Doctors even couldn't go to their workplace fearlessly. Why that has happened? You can like kind of connect the dots here. We have also seen the bookstores were forcefully closed in Ekushe Book Fair. Bowls were tortured. Local artists are now facing harassment by the extremists. We have seen the local artists are not able to like perform any shows. We have seen their stages are like kind of attacked by mob. We've seen that, and some of the local
Concerts
artists
are being cancelled all across. So there is
all
no
across. Yes, and local artists even not feeling safe to like perform anything in public. The opening ceremony of shops are being cancelled. You see, so and also what happened? Women feel unsafe in the streets. This is very like remarkable thing. We need to see why women are feeling unsafe. We have seen many garments industries are closed, which was the backbone of our economy, but it has shrunk the opportunity of our women to work and be independent. These are a very like common pattern when extremists, religious extremists take over a country and get all the facility, get all the benefits from the government. It has happened in many other countries. It's not only in Bangladesh. So we can see the same pattern. We can see the same thing is happening here. We have seen thousands of students couldn't continue their studies without doing any crime, just because they were supporters of the previous government. It's really a shame. Even teachers of the universities were publicly beaten by new so-called student leaders.
If I may add something to you, Mr. Rahman,
Yes, please.
completely agreeing with what you have pointed out, but also based kind of going off of what Miss Meher was asking earlier, whether this was a removal of a mask. I really strongly feel that what we're seeing now, hmm, undermining intellectual freedom, did not suddenly appear.
No,
These parties have been organizing, waiting, and testing their limits for years.
of
What
course.
has changed, exactly what has changed after August 5th, was not their intent. What changed was their confidence. In
True. Very true.
1971, the enemies of Bangladesh believed that ideas were more dangerous, like we talked about it a little while ago. They wanted a
what changed was Bangladesh Awami League, the only promoter and protector of 1971, the protector of our liberation war principles were gone. This is what exactly happened.
and also Awami League was deeply criticized by many, that they feel like they are the sole bearers and responsibility carriers of 1971. Many of us even probably fell into that chain of thought as well. But what have we actually realized in the last 15, 16 months under the Yunus led war criminal supporter regime is that that has remained true, right? Awami League was our only hope of carrying our spirit of 1971. After in the last 15, 16 months, that has completely gone down the drain. So,
Yes. So even today, the one of the very senior teacher of Chittagong University has publicly made an opinion that why the Pakistani army would kill our intellect.
He has completely denied it.
He has completely denied it, and it's very strange. We have proved those are very much like proven truth of our history.
And the
And
International Crime Tribunal has punished Nizami and
yes,
like many people like him who were complicit directly in killing of the thousands of intellectuals of our
But
country.
isn't it very obvious, Dr. Jamil, Jihan, and Mr. Rahman? Isn't it very obvious that a respectable person like the Vice Chancellor of Chittagong University making this kind of remark? Because when in 1971 and 2024, 2025, they were trying to reshuffle the history, when they were trying to silence our intellects, and that was their goal, to reshape the history, to reshape the truth, and they reshape what happened in 1971. So what
And
we
plays the reset and push the reset button. And as
exactly,
Mr. Yunus,
exactly. As Muhammad Yunus, he very directly said the students press the reset button. And that's what the reset button was. So, whatever we are hearing today, and that was our concern. That's why we are all sitting here today to share our concerns. So, what they started in 1971, is this the time they chose to finish, to complete their work, and how to stop it?
To
Isn't it?
some extent, Miss Meher, in 1971, the violence was immediate and visible. But in
Mhm.
2024, it is not. In 2024, the violence is through control. Control is slower, quieter, and often justified in the language of morality and stability. But the outcome remains the same. So, in summary, I guess I can just say that when fear decides what can be said, like you were asking, the mask has already fallen.
Um, Thank you very much, guys. Jihan, can I go back to you again? Can you please give us another two? I know we all been discussed. You've already shown us some beautiful slide about what is happening. Can you tell us a bit more, either through your slide or if you want to say something about it? What is the impact? How our cultural field, how is how our universities are being impacted by this heinous act?
thank you, Miss Meher, again. So the impact, to talk about the impact of this intentional, deliberate targeting of our intellectuals, I would like to talk about the environment of our universities first. At the universities, we have seen thousands of students tied with the student wing of Bangladesh Awami League were forcefully removed from the university scene. Just removed. They were either beaten by mobs or they were provided with a so-called show cause notice or slapped with fake murder charges. Their certificates were taken or they were expelled simply because they are associated with Bangladesh Awami League. So when students cannot freely participate at their educational institutions, it is not hard to guess what is happening at the universities. And in this 1 year, what we have seen, I mean, we all know that the main job of a student is to study, right? I mean, we go to school, college, or university to study. However, study or gaining academic knowledge have become the last of priorities for the student nowadays. Any slight incident or any slight matter, you will see hundreds of them on the streets or at secretariats protesting in violent ways. So we are seeing a systematic alteration of our academic environment. Whoever are behind this meticulous design, they are targeting the young minds and they are successfully able to shift their priorities, the priorities of the students, from studying to meaningless incidents. We have seen RU students staging protests for dependent quota. We have seen students at the secretariat being violent about the answer protest. We have seen at Chittagong Road students protesting for resignation of academic advisor. Some of the students have no clue about what they're protesting. They don't know what they're protesting about. They are just out there with the so-called trendy nature of our country, wasting their most precious time of their life, where their brains are formed, their ideas are developed, and they become educated. And what it is boiling down to is the session jams. Once upon a time, at universities like Dhaka University or BUET, session jams were a critical issue. We have heard from our seniors that 4 years degree take 10 years often time, because the academia does not have a stable environment. But we have seen during the Awami League period, the Awami League government was successful in stabilizing this. Session jams were coming down. However, right now, session jams are through the roof because students are not focused on their main duty. Academics across the country, as I have talked about, and as Mr. Rahman and Dr. Jamil rightly mentioned, that academics are being targeted. When you don't respect your academics, you don't respect the environment, and a total collapse of the academic environment is underway in Bangladesh. And the international community must pay heed because these young minds are the future of Bangladesh, who will be, in turn, a part of the whole world. So if they are not properly developed in Bangladesh, they will turn into be a threat for the global security, overall global security. Back to you, Ms. Mayor.
Thank you, Jihan. Always useful, always. Just to remind the viewers and all of us, Muhammad Yunus, our chief advisor, he never ever mentioned or asked the students to go back and study. He's always there to encourage students to be on the street or coming in the street with their demands and giving them an impression that they are the guard or the protector of the country. And what I believe as an educator, as a teacher, what I believe, some of our young minds may not be able to handle it very well. That is one of the reasons we see so many students, from school students to university, so many of them in the street, being very disrespectful to either their teachers or any elderly, even to their peers. And just to let you know, viewers, when this interim government came into power, some of a very small group of students, they went to one of the advisor demanding the GCSE assessment back home, the equivalent assessment. They wanted to auto pass it or something, if I can correctly remember. And without any kind of discussion, without any kind of going through any process, the advisor decided to cancel that year's exam and everybody will receive an auto pass. So viewers, you can understand what is happening to our education system from top to bottom, really. Yeah. Now my question to you, Dr. Raihan Jamil. My question to you is, when our teachers, when they're under constant fears of teaching something wrong or saying something wrong, when a writer or a columnist or journalist, when they are under constant fear of getting sacked from their job or being attacked by the mob because they said something uncomfortable that can go against the government, do you believe this kind of environment, when that kind of environment exists, the murder or erosion of intellectuals, is it successful already?
Yes, in many ways, that is precisely when suppression succeeds. The goal of intellectual repression is not always to silence everyone. minded. It's not always to silence everyone. Rather, it is to make people silence themselves. When fear enters into the classrooms, the newsroom, the cultural stage, the work is already half done. In 1971, the enemies of Bangladesh understood this very well. They did not only kill intellectuals to remove individuals, they did it to send a message to those who survived. And what was that message? Think carefully before you speak. Remember what happens to those who do. So, today we see a quieter version of the same outcome. When a university lecturer avoids certain history, when a journalist rewrites a paragraph to stay safe, when an artist removes a symbol or a metaphor before it reaches the public, something vital is lost. Not loudly, gradually. This erosion does not announce itself, it hides behind routine, it hides behind professionalism and caution. Over time, students stop hearing difficult questions. Over time, audiences stop encountering challenging ideas. And over time, citizens stop recognizing what is missing. That is the most dangerous stage, in my opinion, because once self censorship becomes normal, we have normalized self censorship, repression no longer needs constant enforcement. Society begins to discipline itself. So, yes, when hesitation, like you asked, becomes a habit, suppression has already achieved one of its central goals. Not total silence, but a culture where speaking freely is irresponsible. Think about it for a moment. We're heading towards a culture where speaking freely feels irresponsible. And that is how a nation slowly forgets how to think aloud. Back to you.
Thank you, Dr. Jamil. Mr. Saifur Rahman, if I can come back to you, my question is, or I always wonder, why this is all about? Is it about power? Is it about control? Is it about gaining something? Or why this is happening? Why this interim government is doing to our intellectual? What is their aim? Is it something dangerous waiting for us? Please.
Thank you. Definitely, it is. It is not only all of those, but it's much more dangerous than what whatever we can see now. The so you can see, or you can, if I would come to what Dr. Jamil has said, the public bidding and forced resignation of teachers and professionals is a tactic of humiliation. It is designed not just to remove a person from a post, but to stripe them of their dignity. So when a mob surrounds a teacher or a doctor, they are sending a message to the society that your degrees, your intellect, or your expertise do not protect you. The only your alignment with our ideology does. So it's actually, in a sense, completely, if from one side it is ideological, they want to replace, they want to establish their ideology in our society by removing our very own thing. And also, I can give you another example. By allowing this, the state actually signals that it has outsourced law enforcement to the mob. When doctors cannot go to work fearlessly, the social contract where citizens give up some freedom in exchange of security is completely broken. The attacks on the Ekushef Book Fair, bowls, and local artists represent a calculated attempt to rewrite the cultural DNA of the nation.
So do you think all these are part of the meticulous design that Mr. Yunus talked about?
It's everything is very well designed, well orchestrated. Nothing is happening spontaneously. They are being facilitated by design by state. So we know that the Ekusha Book Fair is historically the symbol of linguistic pride and free thought of our country. Closing bookstores there force a monoculture where only approval approved literature is allowed.
Uh,
That
Mr. Rahman, because you're talking about Ekusha Book Fair, there are lots of confusion, is there? There are lots of confusion if this Ekusha Book Fair is happening 2026 or not. Once they said yes, then they changed their mind because of the election, then they said because of Ramadan or something. So I am not quite sure the Ekushik book fair that you are talking about,
yes,
which is symbol of our pride for many many years, and which is a meeting point for all of our intellectuals from all part of our country, and we do not know if it is happening in 2 months time. So this is another sign, another symbol, that fear of danger that you are talking about.
of course, this is a systematic silence. Silencing or we have even seen like book fair, actually book fair were or had been arranged during Ramadan earlier. We have never seen it has been cancelled due to Ramadan
And
or
even
anything.
during election time, it did
Yes,
take
even
place. Yeah.
yes, of
See,
course,
see, during our times when we were student, it was an exciting moment for us that we would go to
Of
the Ekusha
course,
book
of
fair.
course. Yeah.
it was kind of a festive book fair, to going to a like a book fair. It was festive for us when we were like very young. So, so if you connect these dots to others, let's say barring thousands of students from their studies because of their political affiliation is a violation of the fundamental human rights to education, right? It creates a lost generation who are alienated and radicalized by their exclusion. And when we see student leaders, these so-called student leaders have the power to publicly beat professors, the hierarchy of knowledge is destroyed. So these are being happened in Bangladesh very, very systematically. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rahman. I am going to you, Dr. Jamil. Um, we have seen, we have experienced, we are experiencing a very uncomfortable silence from our intellectual part, our intelligentsia in our country. And when one group is suffering, some of them, they can be their dear colleagues, some of them, they can be some of their friends, and some of them, they've been working for a very long time together. But we can see when one group of intellectuals, they are suffering in many many ways. Some group of intellectuals, they are silenced. They are silence as gold. So my question to you is this silence from other part of intellectual groups, is this silence, is it a strategy of survival, or is it a moral surrender? Is there any group, they're being benefited by the silence of our intellectuals or not? If you just give us some insight, please.
So, is it a survival strategy or a moral surrender? For many people, silence begins as survival. First, you need to survive. But when this silence becomes permanent, it turns into surrender. I want to be very honest here. Fear is human. Fear is human. We're all afraid of stuff. In Bangladesh, people do not stay silent because they're indifferent, because they do not care. No, they stay silent because they have families and friends and careers and studentship and jobs, lives they are trying to protect. That reality cannot be dismissed. But history teaches us something very painful. In 1971, many intellectuals tried to remain silent, right? They thought staying silent would resolve them of everything and keep them safe. It did not. Silence did not protect them. It only delayed the inevitable for a few. Now, silence may feel like safety in the short term, but over time, it reshapes who we are. When teachers stop asking questions or writers avoid writing stuff, like I was telling you before, something deeper breaks. We begin to confuse caution with wisdom. We begin to call fear maturity. Think about it. We begin to call fear maturity. That is the moment surrender begins. Resistance does not always mean going out and shouting in the streets. Sometimes it means refusing to forget, refusing to erase history, refusing to normalize justice as stability. Sorry, refusing to normalize injustice as stability. So this is when that's resistance right there. Silence might keep an individual alive, but collective silence endangers the soul of a nation. And that is the moral line intellectuals in our country must confront. Not whether silence is understandable, it is, but whether it can remain justified when the cost is shared by everyone. Back to you.
Um, Thank you, Dr. Jamil. Saifur Rahman, I'm coming to you. Uh, my question is, my worry is, if what is happening in Bangladesh today, if this continue for another 5 years or so, or more than 5 years, what will Bangladesh become? What will happen to us? What will happen to our children? Our not only our intellectuals, what will happen to our children, our whole society? Tell us a bit more, please.
If you would ask for another 5 years, I would like to summarize what is happening and what has been happening for the last 16 or 17 months. So, if I summarize this, when the doctor fears the patient, the teacher fears the student, and the artist fears the audience, the nation enters a state of intellectual and cultural paralysis. The silence is no longer just quietness, it is the sound of door locking and shutters closing across the country. So, what does that mean? I here Mr. Jamil already said in near future, even don't see, you need to wait for 5 years. In very like near future, you'd see the entire society will collapse. It will not stop by just silencing the person or people affiliated with Bangladesh or Awami League. It will come to you. It will come to me. It will come to the people who are now not talking or who are not resisting and who are even getting benefits of this broken system. It will come to them as well. And at the end of the day, who will have the power to silence other will stay, and they will stop, they will persecute each and every one who don't or doesn't directly follow their ideology. So it is basically like now it has become very inevitable whatever we have seen in other countries. So the the main goal behind this design or systematic silencing, I see, to prove the world Bangladesh as a failed state. It has failed because it has become independent from Pakistan in 1971. The force were behind at that time killing our intellectuals and other people are in the same or running behind the same goal or same objective. So once they
Mr.
can,
Rahman, sorry,
yes,
I'm so sorry. I'm continuously interrupting you
no
on.
problem.
But just to add, because you mentioned failed state, failed Bangladesh, it seems like we are failing already because if we see the international arena, many of the country they're refusing our students. I know where I am from in UK. I think more than 10 universities they
Yes,
declared they're not accepting students from Bangladesh, and many even not only students, many of our tourists they are not getting entries to many of the countries. So looks like what they have started, it is already going out of our control, isn't it?
of course it is. So
Any autocratic or any
No,
fascist, any
sorry to
autocratic or
interrupt you
any
guys. Just off of what Miss Meher was saying, one of those universities I have read had Muhammad Yunus as one of their vice chancellors, emeritus vice chancellors, I guess, for the last 10 years. Even that university has said we're not going to accept students from universities under Muhammad Yunus. What a
eh,
disgrace.
What
Yunus
a
is a fascist.
disgrace!
Yunus is the
Disgrace!
modern day fascist.
so
Disgrace!
Any
so
fascist is scared of the intellectuals,
if
and that's why
if
Yunus is scared.
let's say one of the example I can say or I can mention, when this Yunus government has taken over, they have removed the police verification of our passport application. So any of the country will be concerned about the society to allow any of the people or person coming from Bangladesh. It's very like worrying. So this doesn't like show or give the signal to international world that our country is going to right direction. It is going to very wrong direction. But my main point is some people are still not aware. Some people are still thinking this government is saint and they will fix everything. They are away from the actual reality. People has to be aware of it. They should understand. They should realize where the country is heading towards. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rahman. We are coming towards the end, but I will ask a very quick question to Dr. Raihan Jamil. Dr. Raihan Jamil, what do you think the responsibility of the civil society or the intellectual group of Bangladesh and beyond Bangladesh? Bangladesh is part of a bigger world. Bangladesh, the people of Bangladesh, the responsibility for those people lie on the international bodies as well. So, what do you think? How the international body should intervene or should do something about it?
Silent intellectuals bear a heavy responsibility, whether they acknowledge it or not. In moments of moral crisis, silence is not empty, it is consequential. Silence shapes what becomes normal, what becomes acceptable, and what future generations inherit as truth. In 1971, Bangladesh lost many of its finest minds. Those who were killed are remembered, but history also remembers something else, Miss Meher. It remembers how fear spread, how silence expanded, how the space for resistance narrowed as people withdrew into safety. Today, no one is asking intellectuals to be heroes, but history does not demand heroism, it demands honesty. When those who understand injustice choose silence, power fills the vacuum. When thinkers retreat, propaganda advances. And when memory is not defended, It is rewritten. That's what this UNUS and war criminal regime is doing right now. They're trying to rewrite our history. This is not about guilt, it is about responsibility. Intellectuals shape moral climate, even when they say nothing. And that is why silence in times like this is never neutral. Silence is never neutral. History will not ask whether silence felt necessary. History will ask whether it was justified. And when we look back at 1971 once again on this special day of December 14 and ask who stood where, future generations will ask the same of us. To wrap up, I'm going to say this: the question is not whether speaking carried risk. The question is whether silence was worth the cost. Back to you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your valuable time. It is always nice to sit with you. It is always nice to talk to you. Now, dear viewers, in 1971, Bangladesh's enemy tried to destroy the nation by killing its thinkers. Today, the weapons are different, but the silence feels similar. When fear replaces speech, when survival demands silence, and when ideas are punished rather than debated, a nation doesn't fall suddenly. It is quietly dismantled. This is not just about the past and not only about politics. It is about whether we still believe that thinking freely matters. History remembers not only those who pull the triggers, but those who look away. The question is no longer whether intellectual silencing exists. The question is whether we'll name it and resist it. Thank you to our panelists. Thank you, everyone. The program ends, but the responsibility doesn't. See you, everyone. See you next Sunday. Same time, same place. Good evening to you all.